Today, you find yourselves equals.
For you are all equally blessed.
Let's do a property tour right after this. Welcome back, everyone. If you're new to the channel, this is the place where we talk about all things lake house. This week we're going to talk about our journey in purchasing this property and the challenges we faced with getting to where it is now. We haven't always been on this property. Our story actually starts across the street. Long time ago when we were looking to get into a place, very little money. So we found a place across the street for pretty cheap. There was nothing on it. It had an electric pole, it had an outlet for a camper, and it had a well. That was it. Quickly, we learned that we were going to need a camper because we didn't want to come down here in just tents. So that's what we did. We found us a camper, pulled it in, and set up shop. Well, we've since sold that property when we moved over here. Let me tell you, this was a lot of work. Let's take a look at what we got going on here. So looking from the road, you could see it's just a standard 2-lot setup. It's not completely in the woods, but it's not completely in civilization either. It is a private lake. It's not a Jellystone with all those amenities, but it's not completely isolated from civilization either. As you can see, we do have neighbors. So we have 2 lots. They're rather big lots, but just 2 lots. Coming in from the driveway, first thing that you see is the well. So coming into the property, the first thing I want to show you, we're going to take you all the way to the back here. And we're going to show you what we were up against when we first got this property. So I'm going to turn you around, even though you can't see much of it right now. I'm going to turn you around to see where the old house was. Yes, there was a house here. It was, I believe, a 2-bedroom house. The foundation was terrible. We looked at it when it was for sale. It needed to come down anyway. So having it burned down was probably a good thing. But it stood right here. Take a look at this. So right here on the edge of the property is where the old house stood. It went all the way down to the lake. You can see how the ground here is still kind of indented. I got to keep adding dirt every year, trying to level it out. We're getting there, but it takes a long time because it keeps settling. So over here on the edge of the water, you can see this is where the old deck sat out above the water. In fact, you can see the old deck post set into the concrete right here. It did hang out over the water, which must have been really nice. The house sat lengthwise from the lake back. It ended about where the telephone pole is now. So the house burned down, and that was when we came into the picture. Finally, after months and months, went up for sale. Well, we were lucky enough to be able to find who was selling it, as the owners had moved all the way across the country. We were able to get a bid put in, and we eventually won the property. The property did come with some challenges. It had a lien on it, and the lien was for removing the house. They would not remove the lien until we removed the house. So that was our first priority that we had to get taken care of. And let me tell you, that was a challenge, trying to find someone down here to remove that house, take it away, was kind of a task, but we got it done. The next item on the agenda was to roll our camper in. For that, we need electricity and we needed water. This brings us to the well. While the well was working and it was in good shape, all the wires going to it were melted. So we had to find those wires, reconnect the well, and get that going. You can see this well house is kind of falling apart right now. I'm working on a plan to replace this. I don't know if I'm going to rebuild or if I'm going to find some plans for new or what exactly we're going to do. So stay tuned for that. Moving on from the well, is the woodshed. This is a woodshed I built myself. I built it in pieces. I found some plans online and I built it in 4 or 5 different sections. I actually built it at the house, put it all together, then took it apart so I could fit it in the truck and bring it down here and reassemble it. The old woodshed was falling down and it was clear that it needed to come down. As you can see, it leaning real bad in this old footage. Moving down from the woodshed takes us to where the old house was. This is a brand new electric pole, as the original one had burned down. Wires were laying on the ground and everything. It was terrible. So then I had to get a hold of the electric company, have them replace the pole, and find an electrician that would actually hook it all back up for us. So this is our main service panel. I do have an RV outlet on the side that we really don't use anymore, as we have buried electric now. The electric pole is located on the property line, so this is the edge of our property. You could see the old well pipe coming up from the ground there. One goes up to this spigot. The other line goes underground over to the trailer. I'll show you where that comes out in a little bit. Having electricity restored to the property was a big win for us. Now we could plug in the camper and we could repair the well. Finding the well wires and reconnecting them let us know that the well was in really good shape and it was working. So now we had water and electricity to the camper. Having power restored also meant we could restore power to the garage. Of course, we had to get an electrician to do that for us. Moving on from the garage, we head back towards the lake to what I would consider the back of the property. Used to be a few trees here, a couple things in the way, which we eventually removed, as well as replacing the camper a few years back. You can see on our shoreline we do have a seawall, which was a major benefit. It's all concrete, spans the length of the property. We did have 4 docking posts at one time. However, they've since rotted and they keep breaking away. So we have a plan for that, to replace these. Maybe not this year though. It is quite a big yard. We've kept it pretty much open for particular thought out reasons. This is a shot of the area where the old woodshed was. You can see what it looks like now and what it used to look like in the past. There was an old patio here. We've just never done anything with it. In the area behind the camper, there's this old concrete pad here, which used to have a light post coming out of it, big metal light post. It never worked. It was all rusted. So one year we finally got rid of it. The hammock area is quickly becoming one of our most favorite hangout spots. Moving down to the end of the property, you can see we do have our own boat ramp. It is in really good shape. It is smooth, it is not cracked, and it goes out quite a bit. So it makes launching and retrieving boats pretty easy. From the boat launch, you could just see our side yard. There's not much here, and there's a reason for that. So we can get in and out boats, campers, anything else big. Beautiful old growth trees on the property. Give us a lot of shade. I gotta mention these 3 trees right here. These are original to the property, well, at least from whence we bought it. These trees are massive. They did sustain damage when the house that was originally here burned down, but they have managed to survive and I'm glad they did. They provide us a lot of shade. Coming up on these trees, you can see how just massive they are. The reason why these trees are so massive is we did discover the septic system. The septic field comes right along these trees and feeds them for as much as they can handle. We were lucky that there was a septic on the property and we knew where the clean out was, so we were able to dump the camper waste right into there. And it wasn't until years later when we found the actual septic system we were able to find someone to tap into it with a new pipe and hook up the new camper. Wild onions do grow on the property and it smells amazing. If you like onions, that is. In the beginning, we had to run a garden hose all the way from the pole across the yard and over to the camper, which was not ideal because we had to roll it up every weekend, because at that time I had someone cutting the grass and I didn't want them to have to move it every weekend or cut it up with the lawnmower. Coming around the back side of the camper, you can see where the well pipe comes up out of the ground into an H-board. This has allowed us to not have hoses strung across our yard any longer, and we just need a short 6-foot length of hose to go straight to the camper. It's out of the way, it's convenient, and it was well worth digging that trench, even though that was a long day, son. Also coming from the pole, I had to run an extension cord for the electric for the camper. So getting the new electric installed was critical, so we didn't have to do that anymore. Making progress on the electric over the years entailed installing this outlet for the camper, so now all we had to do was run the extension cord across this section of the yard, which still wasn't ideal, but it was better. Down from the water is our electric panel for the camper. 50 amp service, 20 amp service, and its own disconnect panel. I had an electrician do this, bury the wire all the way from the pole, so we have a breaker on the pole as well as a breaker in this remote box. During all the turmoil of when the property was being sold, there used to be a pool that they had here, above ground pool they had here in this side yard. I don't know if you can see the indentation, it's still kind of there. But before we actually acquired the property, somebody had stolen the pool, so it was not here when we officially bought the property. But you can see the rest of the side yard is open for moving all kinds of big things in and out of the property. Coming up on the garage is just your standard garage. Not much to see here. 12 by 24. Except there is a surprise in this garage. In this garage was a full bathroom in the corner here, which I completely had to redo, but it really made things a whole lot easier to get going here back in the day. You can see I added an on-demand water heater. There was an electric 50-gallon in here when we first got the property, but that had to go. Complete with shower and vanity sink. Now, probably the oldest thing on this property I want to introduce you to is this massive pine tree. It's taken its licks over the years, that's for sure. This tree is so old, I can't even imagine. Just look at the size of these branches. I don't even think the video does it justice. Unfortunately, this tree has seen better days. It's been cut from the electric company to make room for the wires. It's taken some storm damage over the years. But it is still a great place for birds to have their families. You can see the property is community based. We're not completely out in the woods, but we're not in the big city either. I do have neighbors. They're a little bit closer than I would like, but it's not too bad. And you know what? It is what it is. You know, we have everything down here that we need. There's a grocery store, a gas station, and a hardware store in town that lets us get done pretty much whatever we need to get done. So, but for the bigger stuff, we got to go about an hour away to find a Home Depot or something like that to get other projects done. If you found this video entertaining and helpful, won't you consider subscribing to the channel? Smash that like button if that's something you're into, and we will see you next time.